Hey guys, this is Mr. Simonini here, and I hope you're having a good day so far, and your first day of e-learning has been a positive experience so far. I just want to let you know, if you have any questions, then just please email me at dsimonini@d211.org. I wrote it on top of this notability document. So again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Again, or shoot me a remind. If you need to post something in Schoology, then do that too. So just understand that. This first video is an overview of quadratics. That is what we have done so far in class, and where we're going with it. In order to understand what quadratics are, you really truly need to understand the big picture and how everything fits in with each other. Please pause the video to catch up on any notes you need to take. Take advantage of my learning take advantage of the teaching on this video. So if I go too fast, then just pause, catch up, whatever you need to do. I do anticipate this being a longer video than others, so sorry about that, but I plan on making the homework assignment short for you guys today. So hopefully you view that as a positive then. So just make sure you stay dialed in. It's really, really important to fully understand what we have done so far in class with quadratics and where we're going to fully get what we're doing. So the first thing that we did in class, again, this is review, is that we talked about quadratics with factoring. And the idea with factoring, we went from standard form to factor form. And we have a pretty straightforward quadratic trinomial here, where we're changing this to factor form. We did x method. We learned that, hey, when a is 1, we can just use x method. A times c would be 24. My b went down here. And then we thought about what are two numbers that multiply to 24 and add to 11? And that was going to be 8 and 3. So x squared plus 11x plus 24, that factored into a binomial times a binomial, which we learned was factor form. In this case, it would be x plus 8 times x plus 3. Again, if we FOIL this or have our 4 arrows, we learned that this was equivalent to x squared plus 11x plus 24. So again, we did that. So I kind of want to remind you what was the first thing that we did in quadratics, and this was it. And then the next part of quadratics, 6b, 6c, 6d. So far we've done 6b. Again, pause if you need to, but we're diving deep into the 3 forms of quadratics. That is vertex form, standard form, and factor form. And our goal in each form is to be able to graph, solve, change in each form. We did vertex form in class. This is this example here to kind of just remind you what we did. So let's say y equals x plus 5 squared minus 49. And the first thing we did was graph it. The good thing about vertex form, hence why it's called vertex form, is you can find the vertex right away, which is, again, the most important thing to be able to find whenever you're graphing. So the vertex here in this case, we learned was whatever numbers inside of the parenthesis, we did opposite for the x. So in this case, I'm going to use a brighter color. It was negative 5. And then negative 49 for my vertex right there. So again, whatever was inside, opposite, whatever is outside, we took. I'm just going to eyeball this graph right here. So let's say negative 5 is right there. Negative 49 was right here. We kind of made a table. We kind of, we did all that stuff. But I'm, again, just doing a rough sketch here. I'm just reviewing what we did in class. Hopefully it's just reminding you what we did. So again, we graph our quadratic. I know it's opening up because there's no negative in front of the parenthesis. So again, that's a rough sketch of that quadratic of that parabola right there. And again, being able to find the vertex is really important for us whenever we graph. Then we moved into solving. We spent a day or two on this. Whenever we solve, remember, we have to find solutions. Those are x-intercepts whenever we solve a quadratic. So in this case, just remember, whenever we find an x-intercept, y is 0. So that actually gives us the ability to be able to solve this now. So we make y 0, so I get x plus 5 squared minus 49. So when we solve this, when we solve in vertex form, we have this going on. And again, if you want to go ahead and do your arrows here, you can. When we solve this, I'm going to do the traditional way because the traditional way is the way that you're going to have to understand in the future for sure. We got to get x by itself. So we do the inverses. So we got 0 plus 49, so it'll be 49 equals x plus 5 squared. And then the next step was to take the plus or minus square root of both sides. Remember, that will cancel out the parentheses square over here. That's how we get rid of that. And what's inside is this x plus 5. A reminder, square root of 49 is 7. So this is where I'm getting 7 from. So x plus 5 equals 7. Or x plus 5 equals negative 7. So again, whenever we solve a quadratic, you can have 0 solutions, you can have 1 solution, you can have 2 solutions. In this case, we can have 2 solutions, or in other words, 2 x-intercepts. So I subtract 5 on both sides. I get x equals 2. Or in this case, subtract 5 on both sides over here. Negative 7 minus 5 is going to be negative 12. So my two answers here were x equals 2, x equals negative 12. If you look at my rough sketch that I made, you look here and you can see those are about where the x-intercepts will be. So that is consistent or makes sense. My answers make sense basically because again, those are my x-intercepts. So again, we graph, we solve, and then we learn how we can change. We change from standard form to vertex form. Again, if you need to pause, remember, pause it here, write this down first, and then play. You can do that. But again, our method was completing the square. Completing the square helped us change from standard form to vertex form. And again, that was the method. So again, here's my example right here. So I have y equals x squared plus 10x minus 24. And what we need to do is we have to set this up. So it'll be y equals x squared plus 10x. This is where I added my blank here. So we have a blank. We're going to be adding a number. And then we have minus 24. And then we're going to be subtracting a number. When we add the same number and subtract the same number, we're really adding 0. So we're keeping this equation equivalent still. But we're changing it so that we can make it look like vertex form. What we learned in class, what goes in a blank, and again, it always goes in a blank, would be b divided by 2 squared. So in this case, it's going to be 10 divided by 2 squared. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 squared is 25. So in this case, 25 is going to go in the blank. If you add 25, you have to subtract 25 in order to keep everything the same. I'll take a little pause here. This is extremely, extremely important to understand. When you look at this line right here, this part right here, it's really important to look at this trinomial. This is like one part of the puzzle piece, and then the other part of the puzzle piece is the second part. And what we do here is we factored this quadratic trinomial, this first puzzle piece. So 25 is my C, my B is 10. And the reason why we put 25 there is because when you think of two numbers that multiply 25 and add a 10, they end up being 5 and 5. So what we can do is we can change this quadratic trinomial into a perfect square trinomial, which would be x plus 5 squared. I'm actually going to give myself a little bit more room here. So not overlapping. So it'd be x plus 5 squared. That was the first puzzle. Again, this puzzle piece is this. So if you were going to expand it out and, FOIL, that'd be this answer right here. And then the second part, don't forget about your second part, is this subtraction. So just negative 24 minus 25, which is going to be minus 49. So that was your answer. We changed this standard form to vertex form. We changed. And again, these are equivalent. And I don't know if you notice, I did use the same example as up here. So if you had to graph it, you can graph it now. If you had to solve it, you technically can solve it now. So again, just understanding that big picture is huge, and we did that with vertex form. So what we're doing now, really, really important to understand. Again, if you understand this, it's going to make sense what we're doing during this e-learning time for us. What we're doing now is we're going to standard form. Okay, so standard form, again, is whenever you have an A, B, and C. So for example, y equals x squared plus 11x plus 24. Should have used my Zoom thing, but that's standard form. Later, if we're gone for more than 2 weeks, we're going to have to do factored form. Factor form would be something like a binomial times a binomial. Again, we talked about the forms in class, so you should know what the three forms are and how to identify it. But just understand that's what we're doing next. And again, what we're doing now is we're doing standard form, and what our goal is, we're going to be graphing, we're going to be solving, and we're going to be changing in each of these forms. And again, what we're doing now is going to be standard form. We already did vertex form. We already learned how to factor. So graphing, solving, changing, and standard form is up next. Again, sorry for the length of this video. I'm going to make the future one shorter. And again, I'm going to make the homework assignment shorter because I know this probably took you some time to write down and kind of reflect and truly understand what we're doing. So thanks again.